Live from our Auckland Park studio, I'm Aldrin Simpier. It's 2 weeks to the ANC's elective conference and the PGCs have concluded. Cyril Ramaphosa has been endorsed today by Limpopo and Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma got the nod from KwaZulu-Natal. The question is, who will deliver the closing address of the ANC's elective conference on the 20th of December? But for tonight, we focus on the alleged branch manipulation in the Northwest and political instability in Limpopo. We start off in the Northwest. The province has been plagued by allegations of branch general council meetings being rigged, state resources used to influence voting in branches and other irregularities. Busisi Wentuli compiled this report.
The Northwest Province is part of the former homeland of Bophuthatswana. It had a rocky start at the dawn of democracy, as ANC structures were not well established on the ground. Thus, its first premier, Popo Molefe, was sent from Gauteng Province. Since then, the province's politics have been highly factionalized. Molefe stayed for 10 years until 2004. Then Edna Molewa was appointed from 2004 to 2009, after which Maureen Modiselle took the reins but was deposed less than 2 years in office. Thandi Modise was then appointed. She too never finished her term, and the current Premier, Supra Mahoma-Pello, took over since 2014.
One of the variables that we need to consider in any arena of political participation is that there are psychological warfares between individuals based on the principle that every man is a political animal and has his own personal interest. So these factions might be based on access to state resources and access to power.
Nicknamed the Black Jesus, Supra Mahoma-Pello is said to be at the center of the factions in the province, depending on who speaks.
I'll take you back from when Comrade Popo was a premier. If you trace it back, you'll find him fighting and feeling that Comrade Popo's leadership is not such that it's inclusive. He was fighting Comrade Popo. Then Comrade Edna was deployed. She became his victim as well. Comrade Maureen Modiselle came. She lasted 106 days. On the 106th day, she was redeployed. At the center of her removal, it was service delivery protests that were created by our premier, who was at the time the provincial secretary.
I think we have entered, like other provinces, the so-called weak state, weak province phenomenon. There's high levels of political apathy. There's a very dominant leader that is not very accommodating towards opposition within the structures of the ANC.
The politics in the ANC have had an impact in the running of the province. In 2009, the ANC's executive was deposed on the grounds of institutional factionalism, and a provincial task team ran the province for about 17 months. In 2013, a 10-month probe by the Special Investigation Unit into local municipalities exposed widespread decay in local government and blamed political infighting. Previously unimportant as a power bloc in the politics of the ANC, the Northwest has reportedly emerged as a powerful part of the so-called Premier League provinces. Together with Mpumalanga and the Free State, a coalition seen to be instrumental in influencing who becomes the next leader of the ANC. The Northwest ANC held a provincial executive council in October before the finalization of branch nominations. It said there was unity behind Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, whom it named as its preferred presidential candidate.
There's no unity around that name. The Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC and the Provincial Executive Committee of the Women's League have resolved that they would urge branches to line themselves behind the view Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma to be the incoming president. branches are not in the same view.
Bribery in this part of the country is called skete. It is said that those delivering the much-needed delegates to vote for a preferred side can make as much as 100,000 rand per delegate. This man, who has requested anonymity for fear of victimization, says together with a number of CR17 campaign branch coordinators, they will promise compensation should they change allegiances.
There was the secretary, and there was also the Premier himself, and there was also Mr. Leha, who is the MEC of Sports Education and what else. And there was also the provincial leadership of the ANC Youth League. The one that I could see there was Ms. Fayola Mochum. He said we should join the NDZ, convince branches to come this way. What I would say is that it was not only myself who's in the CR17 and who was gaining ground in this particular branch. Most of the people who were there were those that were some sort of a threat to the NDZ campaign. Hence we were called there and we offered that our lives would never be the same if we lobby people to support NDZ.
At this year's national conference, the Northwest is expected to bring 538 delegates. Questions are asked about how possible was it for the province to double its delegates to conference from the 234 it brought to Mangaung. We visited a number of branches during the nomination window period. We met the elderly people who were apparently made to sign registers at night.
Are ke tlo sign up pampiri go le bosigo ga ba re senyisa di membership
ba tle mo ka 7 ba tletse ke ha pitsana papa ka go mkhukhu ke betse ba tsa gore gate go diragalang ga ka go ba go te tlogala go batliwa wena ke be ke tlogala khuruma tsa pitsana papa ke tle ga ke tsena ga ke ba itlhela para sana ke tshana ga nna ke betsa grace a kra ke tsoro go saenela ga ba re tlhalosetsa ke ha sa tlhalose puo fan foreta wa go itsang gore go tla go irwa go re galang ga go iregele
se ba se saenileng ba saenile attendance register ya go bontsha gore ba tseile karolo mo go tlhopeng kemedi go ya ko Nazareth. Bana ba le teng ko holong ya motse ine ile bone bana ba tsa karolo ya go tlhopha batho ba mme se se makatsang ke gore ba saenile motlong.
These members say their branch was stolen by people meeting at a tavern near the meeting venue.
So delegate e tlhophilwe le modula stilo wa ANC o teng o tlhophilwe se tse re itse gore modula stilo ke mang ntate o na tsa package community o na tsa package ke ene secretary gore ba tlhophile re ntse re na le bone ne re le mo venue bone bana ba le ka mo spotong so dipampiri ne dintsi di tsama re ntse re bona go na le something mare re sa kgona go tlhaloganya gore ke.
We followed them as they went to the local police station to inquire about how to protect their members whom they say are being threatened from speaking out. Elsewhere in the province, reports of violence during branch meetings have also been made. People still remember the widely publicized killing of Moss Parkwe in the Rustenburg area following his whistleblowing against corruption, and Obuti Chika, who was shot 2 days before the Mangaung elective conference. Some deployees have also been accused of deliberately exceeding their mandate or sabotaging branch meetings where their preferred candidate is not popular. In this video, a deployee is seen running the meeting instead of allowing the branch chairperson to do so, as per the guidelines. Other regions also had similar stories to tell.
There were some that went well, there were some that were partly rigged, and there were some that they were not meeting quorums, and some comrades were locked outside the venues.
The manner in which guidelines from the NEC were being disregarded, undermined, and the power of branches and members of the ANC being clearly put aside and treated as if they don't exist.
In Modimole village, on the day before the initial closing of nominations, the deployee from the regional office was nowhere to be seen.
Today, BGM had on Sunday in a duty and Correita. Then we had an agreement with the deployee for today at 2 o'clock. And to our surprise, it's a past 4 to 5 deployee and there is no communication.
There's also the alleged abuse of state resources for candidate votes.
In fact, I'm aware that 2 days ago, in Rustenburg alone, they called delegates. And those delegates to say, look, we want to offer you jobs because you are our delegates. They are controlling municipality.
The faction that is in charge of government currently is the one that would be able to have much more resources and control, both from municipalities to state, to sector departments. They will be able to come up with jobs, advertise them, hire, appoint, come up with tenders, deploy young people who are delegates to EPWPs and other easy-going government opportunities for economic benefit.
Bojanala, the province's largest region, is currently in court arguing that 40 of its branches were not constitutionally launched. They wanted to interdict the Provincial General Council. They are set to appear again on the 13th of December. But how credible would the National Conference be given the political climate on the ground?
We may end up in a situation where either no conference may take place as a result of irregularities, or the conference may be undermined not to take place in another way, or we may see an election, but there's not necessarily going to be a legitimate outcome. And the big question will be, how is the losers going to react?
The province held another PGC this past weekend where they once again endorsed Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Another court action is being mooted following allegations of extensive alterations to the numbers.
Well, joining us in studio is the Northwest Provincial Secretary, Dakota Legoete. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Just a quick reaction to this insert that has been compiled by Busisio.
No, thank you very much. Let me also thank the viewers at home for the opportunity. We must appreciate one thing, that part of the problem of what you see manifesting itself towards the national conference, it's some of the previous grievances that we have had in our province. Just to give you the background, is that some of the people who are raising grievances here are people who have raised grievances even for the past 15 years. So they've never come to terms to accept the current political landscape that is there in the province, particularly that we emerged as the province in the 7th and 8th provincial conference with a leadership, and part of that leadership is assumed some of the responsibilities in government, including our provincial chairperson, who's also the premier. There are some who have not accepted his leadership from the previous provincial conference. And as a result of that, this is just a perpetual grievance, which some of our comrades in the province are raising, which some of it is influenced by the leadership preferences as we move towards the December.
Okay, tell you what we'll do. After the break, we'll go into those issues and delve into those issues. Quite a number of issues that have been raised in that package, including how the province has managed to double its number of branches from 234 back in Mangaung in 2012 to 538. So let's go to a quick ad break, and when we come back, we will continue this discussion with Mr. Dakota. Good evening and welcome back to this conversation that I'm having with Dakota Legwete with regards to issues that have been raised in the ANC in the Northwest. One of those issues, as I mentioned just before the break, is how the province managed to double its numbers from 234 to 538. And just watching that incident, one of the allegations that's raised there by at least, I think, 3 elderly people is saying that they were just forced to sign papers that they didn't know what's happening.
Yeah, look, let me start with the membership. What we did as a province was to appoint sub-regional organizers in each and every sub-region. We embarked on a program of Sistukuzane. Every Monday, where officials and the PwC went, we do door-to-door. We went to taxi rank to ensure that we recruit. And what we have done is also to, as part of ensuring that we live up to the expectations of the previous National General Council, that gatekeeping must be stopped, exclusion of membership must be stopped, and we're loyal to that particular decision. And that was not for the first time, because I was fortunately the former provincial secretary of the Youth League. At that time, we doubled our membership also, becoming one of the biggest Youth League branches in the country, Youth League provinces in the country. And from that experience, we used it on the ANC now to double our membership. And that has paid the results. And most of our branches, even the biggest one of 2,500 delegates, 2,500 members, 25 in Morotele, corrected, and it's on camera, and most of our branches are on camera. Yeah, and where there were problems, we accepted through the dispute mechanism process. We also went through the appeals process, and most of our branches, out of 119 disputes which were put forward.
It's fine that you would be recruiting and you want to increase the numbers, but one issue that's raised here by a resident called Queen is she says in the evening while making porridge, ANC people came in and they made her sign this document without explaining to her what exactly it is that she's signing. So it might be okay recruiting members, but how you do it might be an issue.
Yeah, look, in that case, what we call a signature campaign, it is wrong, it cannot be encouraged. And in such branches, disputes were raised, and those particular disputes...
So just based on what Priscilla has now raised, is it fair to say that the branch where Priscilla might be from, that the one that she is signed to now, that could be a bogus branch, that now it has allocated a member illegitimately?
Priscilla's branch is not affected. Priscilla Williams, she's from Ward 10 in Zerast. Ward 10 went through, there was no problem. She's a delegate of that
my apologies. I meant Queen. I meant Queen. The old lady who explained that while she was cooking porridge, she was made to sign this paper. So what I'm asking is whether this then means that her branch is a bogus branch, because now you're admitting to these issues, that these issues are true, and you are condemning this, right?
Yes, I must say we are condemning that if indeed it happened, because for a branch to correct, we convene a BGM. We get members of the ANC into a venue that we have agreed about with the branch executive committee, and 50
and
plus
one of those venues can't be a tavern. Eh?
No, it can't be a tavern. We don't work on taverns.
So
we work on community halls, churches, schools, open cover grounds, and everything. So, or even we can pitch up a tent.
Is it the first time that you're hearing this?
No, it's not for the first time. In the dispute processes, we heard about this, and where we found that there was prima facie case, we have made verdicts of those branches to rerun. Currently, as it is the case, 25 branches in the province are rerunning. Some of them, I think it must be this one, to ensure that justice and fairness is done to all the members, and branches are given equal opportunity to participate and to exercise their rights in terms of their delegation in the national conference.
Are any disciplinary action being taken against these people who have been going against the rules of the ANC and how to convene a BGM?
Yeah, look, what we have done currently is that we are still awaiting the final signed verdict report of all the disputes from the Secretary General. Once he has signed them off, we are going to make follow-up on each and every case as a province to ensure that we bring justice to these particular matters, but we also maintain the decorum and the discipline of the African National Congress, because we are not only a movement, we are also a leader of society, we are also the governing party. Reputation counts.
You mentioned earlier on that one of the reasons that you have these disputes and these allegations being raised, it's because of leadership preferences and so forth. And one of the allegations being raised in this tape by Anonymous over there is that there was a meeting, he was called to a meeting, and there was something that was offered to him in return that he supports Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and convinces his branch to support Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Have you personally been part of any of those meetings?
No, look, as a province, we went to a PGC. We endorsed the name of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, and we lobbied for that particular name. In instances where bribes or manipulations were done like this, we were never part of that. And I'm definitely sure even our chairperson, his name is just being bad-mouthed. He was never part of that. Because I can tell you now, as officials, PC officials, we did not participate in any running of any PGM, precisely to allow us to intervene where necessary. And that is the case. For now, it's not true. Those allegations, I think they will have to be backed up with any prima facie evidence of any person, because
and you yourself, you've never been part of such a meeting. You've never offered someone money or even a job.
Raise my name.
Or even a job, for that matter.
I'm not in charge of any government institution. I'm full-time in the ANC.
This allegation around jobs being offered for potential people who would be supporting a certain candidate, in this case, the issue being raised here in this insert is the support of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Do you know of instances where jobs were offered, be it part of this current regime, which is under Supra Mahumapelo, or be it before the previous chairperson?
Look, I don't know of any jobs which were offered in the past or even in the current regime. I would want a person who says, yes, an appointment letter, I was appointed after being persuaded to do 1, 2, 3. For as long as it remains an allegation, it's an allegation. And you know, all of us are panting for their horses to emerge in the December National Conference. And we can use any desperate measure, including besmishing the names of leaders. Like our provincial chairperson's name is being dragged in the mud. It's not easy for me to believe this particular allegation.
Are those one of those desperate measures that you speak of? Desperate measures that go to an extent of where people are being killed, like we heard of Uchike and Poko?
Look, everybody will tell you, for the first time, as a Northwest province, we have never had serious incidents in our BGMs. We have tried by all means.
You never had?
Serious incidents in our BGMs, be it assault, be it people who have been killed.
That's not true. The SABC last week ran a story of an ANC member in the Northwest who was pregnant and she lost a baby, she had a miscarriage, and you even commented on that issue. Yes. So it's not true that there wasn't assault. There was assault that took place. This woman even lost her baby.
That matter is still with the police.
So it's not true that there was an assault?
No, I'm saying any killing. There wasn't any killing.
Okay then. Okay, let's go to a quick ad break, and when we continue after this ad break, we'll continue our conversation with Dakote Lehueto with regards to allegations that have been raised in the Northwest. Please do stay with us.
Today, on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new Traditional Courts Bill.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law, by its nature, is consensual. That I have a right to affiliate, I have a right, therefore, to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of, if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
#Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
What is environmental health?
In Section 24 of the Constitution, the environmental right has a second part, which is to encourage people to be active citizens and gives us the right to participate in politics and organize and raise awareness so that the environmental right can be guaranteed.
Using coal and wood and paraffin to cook with or to heat their space or to heat water. These are basic fundamentals, and I think if we can address that alone, we will make a huge impact, an environmental impact on the health of our population.
Food that comes into the country, the vigilance at the ports and harbors is being checked at the moment currently by environmental practitioners who are port officers at those ports. They need to be more stringent in terms of control of what comes into the country.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
And welcome back. We continue our conversation about allegations raised in the Northwest with Mr. Legwete. Thank you again. Just in a few minutes that we have in place. Firstly, the one issue raised by the analyst is that Supra Mahumapilu, the chairperson of the province and the premier of the province, is too powerful. This has also been raised by the SACP. Your quick response to this?
Look, Comrade Supra, it will be wrong to isolate him from the rest of the PC collective. He works within a collective. Even as the premier, he gets his mandate from the collective. Because every month as a PwC, we meet with the EXCO of the province to get the progress in terms of the work that they
And
are
the
doing.
reshuffles are not unilateral. It's not him who decides on his own.
No, reshuffles are not unilateral. We engage on them and we come to conclusions on the issue of reshuffle. So it's not necessarily true that he's powerful. It's only that he's working within a collective, and it's a collective that is responsible for all decisions that have been implemented.
And among the collective were those who were at the PGC that decided that they are endorsing the nominations that came from the branches, is that they're endorsing Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma to take over from President Jacob Zuma. Just a quick response now that we have KwaZulu-Natal has also nominated her, at least she has 4 provinces. But some say, as you look at the numbers as they stand at the moment, it seems as though that Cyril Ramaphosa is leading, I think, about 600 nominations.
Look, you need to be aware from the analysis that happened towards Polokwane. Branch nominations do not necessarily means delegates in terms of voting. So he may be ahead in terms of those particular nominations, but they are not necessarily the outcome of the voting process. But for Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, I think as the ANC, we must be loyal to our own principles and policies. We have spoken about non-sexism. We have spoken about women having earned their stripes, and we think Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, she's one of such women with such caliber. She has earned her stripes. You know that from the South African Student Organization, she was the vice president of Stephen Bantu Biko. She has been a minister. Everywhere where she got in as a minister, she's Dr. Fix-It. Departments which were performing very bad in terms of the ages report, she turned them around. And I think that's what we need now, to rejuvenate the country, rejuvenate the economy, so that the economy can grow with the creation of jobs, because currently it's stagnant.
Well, some may argue, including Gwede Mantashe, may argue that if it's not Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa becoming the president of the ANC, then those who support another candidate must forcefully argue why Ramaphosa is not capable of becoming president, considering that he's already deputy president. In 30 seconds.
From time immemorial, presidency in the ANC is not automatic. It's a contested position. And the same has happened to Ramaphosa. He's not going to get a free ride into presidency. He will have to contest. And amongst its 7 hopefuls.
Well, in that consultation, we continue to follow quite closely. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Dakota Lehuete, there joining us with regards to allegations that have been raised inside the ANC's Northwest branches. But after this, we focus on Limpopo, the education crisis that Limpopo is facing, as well as the political instability. The chairperson of that province joins us after this.
Violence against women, it also talks to such behavior where teachers, instead of educating kids and give them dignity, they strip them of their dignity.
The First Lady.
The First Lady, her action, it's just unacceptable. I must say that it cannot be condoned. If I had it my way, I would say we had to act and make sure that he goes to jail.
This scourge is not ceasing.
The angry people, the intolerant, it's so huge. So then the scourge finds itself within that particular environment. You cannot say that it's a standalone. It's influenced by social ills, economic challenges.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Well, as ANC members count down the days and the hours to their National Elective Conference, a major focus has been on the ANC's leadership race. But what about the issues that face the people on the ground where the ANC governs? One of those provinces is Limpopo, that has become synonymous with poor education system. Nadiva Scrapeman takes a look.
With just a few days to go before the new leader of the ANC is announced, we travel to Limpopo to look at burning issues in the province that effective leadership should address. Limpopo's school system offers little hope to children to exit the poverty cycle. One of the many problems with school infrastructure and education is the issue of sanitation. In 2014, at a school in Limpopo, a pit toilet collapsed under 5-year-old grade 1 learner Michael Komape. He drowned in human excrement. We arrive in Limpopo near the end of Michael Komape's court case hearings. Section 27 is suing the Department of Basic Education on Michael's parents' behalf.
We want justice for Michael. There's nothing that will bring back Michael.
there's no amount of money that will bring back Michael and that will give us happiness. To be honest, money is nothing. We as the family, we want to be happy like we used to before Michael's passed away.
Lydia hopes her brother's death will see an end to pit toilets in the province and that other families will not have to experience a loss like theirs.
We don't wish, even for our worst enemy, to go through that, because it is very painful to lose a child like that. So we don't want another child to lose his life like that.
Bhavna Ramji, an attorney with Section 27, explains why what happened to Michael should have been prevented.
For years and years, we wrote to the Department of Basic Education and to the Limpopo Provincial Department to say these schools are in a dangerous, unhygienic state and something is going to happen soon. In 2014, it was sort of like the moment we had all been waiting for in a completely macabre way. That moment arrived with Michael Komape's death. So if we can get a declaration that rights were violated in this case and that as a result the Limpopo government has an obligation to plan to eradicate terrible toilets throughout the province, and we're talking about tens of thousands of toilets, that would be a victory for us.
According to local NGO Basic Education for All, there are currently over 8,000 pit toilets in use at schools in the province.
Schools are in a very bad condition in terms of sanitation. The schools are still using pit toilets in even this year. Other challenges is such as furniture, textbooks, the nutritional centers, laboratories, libraries. There are a lot of challenges.
Political analyst Ralph Matekga says South Africa's education budget is the highest on the continent.
If you look at the throughput and the quality of education that comes out, that is where the problem is.
According to educational researcher Nick Spall, 78% of the education budget goes towards teachers' salaries, leaving little money for anything else. This school is not far from where Michael Komape died. This derelict block of pit toilets has been deemed hazardous. A newer block, used by the girls, replaces it. The boys use the surrounding bush to relieve themselves. This is where the principal and teachers sit.
They are not safe because when it rains, the children, the learners, have to go home. As much as if they stay, they will be in danger. So that's the reason why they have to go home when it rains. The learners are sharing books. Textbooks are not enough. So there are situations where you find 6 learners share one textbook.
Mrs. Ramaroka says the student governing body has approached the department several times to no avail.
This year, they went, as the SGB, we went back to the office and they said they have had their cry, their complaint, that they promised that they will come, but they never showed up. They also even told them that they have seen the school, how it looks, they will come and do what they have to do, but up to this day, nothing happened.
Despite the myriad problems with education, no-fee schools have enabled the poorest communities to access education.
If you look at the feeding scheme at that level, you realize that at least there is a livable, much more acceptable conditions of the schooling.
In 2012, after complaints over the non-delivery of textbooks to schools, Section 27 went into Limpopo province to investigate.
We went into the schools to find poor infrastructure, terrible desks and chairs, no proper sanitation, transport to school. Many of the learners had to walk very long distances to get to the school, often getting there hungry, tired, and unable to actually concentrate. We found overcrowding in many of the classrooms, particularly those schools that communities felt were good. All the children would be sent to those schools, and so you had about 106 learners in one classroom. One of the reports that was done by Nick Spall showed that for every 100 kids that get into grade 1, only about 60 of them managed to write matric. And then of those who've written matric, 34 of them will pass. And of the 34 that will pass, around 16 will qualify to go to university. And ultimately, those who will come out with an undergraduate degree within 6 years, it's about 4.
The high level of school dropout in rural areas like Limpopo sees an influx of unemployed youth taking to the streets of Johannesburg to try and make a living. What do these statistics spell for the future of our youth?
It means having a youth contingent that is unable to contribute to the economy and make a living for themselves. It actually means poverty, unemployment, and continued inequalities.
I spoke to the chairperson of the ANC Youth League in the province, Che Selani, to find out their stance on the high levels of school dropout and unemployment in Limpopo.
Government should be able to find ways in which they can assist these young people to be absorbed in the labor market.
The Limpopo Youth League has come out in favor of radical economic transformation, which forms part of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's campaign rhetoric, and which Selani defines as the following.
We need free and quality education. We need to bridge the gap of unemployment in the country. We need to nationalize strategic assets and other state assets. We need to create our state-owned bank. Land should be distributed accordingly.
Selani and the Youth League are dissatisfied with the current provincial administration, which is aligned with Cyril Ramaphosa. He says the Premier, Stanley Mataboge, has been largely ineffectual.
Since he has been the Premier, the chairperson, he has never taken even 5 children to school. He has never done that. He has never employed 100 young people. He has never done that. We have never seen it. So it's a crisis.
Despite Ramaphosa having attended high school in Limpopo, support for the two main candidates is more nuanced than it appears.
As much as Cyril might have quite a significant reach in Limpopo, you still have Dlamini Zuma actually making some inroads there in the province. It's not a given that if you come from a province, you're actually going to be guaranteed support from that province.
At the ANC's upcoming conference, policy discussions are expected to form part of the agenda.
Education is one of a highly contested policy area. We don't know whether there will be free education or not, and it has become a political issue as well. But also, if you look at the economy, there is this talk of radical economic transformation, which could actually bring in a complete shift when it comes to how things went about. Maybe South Africa doesn't need grand ideas around policy. Maybe we just need to strengthen state capacity. Make sure we deliver on the basics and leave aside the grand ideas about policy. Grand ideas such as radical this, radical that, they have not been treated in a way that they substantially make a difference when it comes to resolving problems in South Africa.
Well, what an interesting insight and various issues being raised there. Joining us now in studio is the Limpopo chairperson of the ANC, Stan Mathabatha, who's also the Premier of the ANC. So both on politics and both on policies of the ANC and implementing policies of the ANC. Would you say that you have failed in implementing the ANC's policies when it comes to education?
Let me start by greeting the viewers and perhaps correct that I'm not the Premier of the ANC, I'm the Premier of the province of Limpopo.
Apologies, my apologies.
Yes. No, I wouldn't say we have failed. But what I'll actually say is that the province, Limpopo, has got its own history. When it comes to the issue of school infrastructure, I wouldn't want to be specific on the issue of Michael Komape. But when it comes to the issue of school infrastructure, I think the province has done a lot, has done marvelously so. Given the background, our history, where we're coming from. At some stage, we didn't have the number of schools, half the number of schools that we are having today. I know when it comes to sanitation, At some stage, we were below 9%, 10%. Today, we are at about 53%. The issue of pit toilets, I'm not going to come here and give a very glossy picture and give an impression that everything is hanky when it comes to school infrastructure and pit toilets are being eradicated in the province. Yes, I must accept we have got a challenge.
Okay, tell you what we'll do. After the break, we'll go into those challenges that you've been raising and we see exactly what those challenges are and how exactly the province plans to eradicate these issues. Remember that the ANC's policy documents on education also speaks about the infrastructure and the norms and standards that these schools have to meet. We'll do that just after this break.
He's still going. He popped it up. He circled Peterson. Easy as that. What a response it is from the Cheetahs. Brilliant score.
Imran Tahir produced a superb performance with the ball. The Proteas leg spinner put his side in the driving seat, scalping 3 wickets for just 18 runs.
Gifton Gope is flying toward third, and he is there with a triple, his first in the big leagues.
It is a Ferrari front row lockout, unless Hamilton can get on pole, and he can't. Ferrari, for the first time since France in 2008, have locked out the front row.
For all your sports news, keep it locked to Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday from 20:30.
The Law Society has slammed notices sent to 4 universities to jack up standards or risk losing their LLB courses. The Council on Higher Education issued a stern warning to the universities to conform within 6 months.
I think it will affect the university. I think outside the law faculty, there's a funding issue.
It's been 112 years since Enoch Sontonga died as a relatively unknown composer, choir master and teacher. But today his legacy lives on through his greatest composition, Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika.
For all your news updates, stay tuned to Your World from Monday to Sunday.
Good evening and welcome back to this special discussion, a special edition of Special Assignment. I'm Aldrin Simpier and we continue our conversation with the Limpopo Provincial Chairperson and Premier Stanley Mathabatha. Thank you so much again for joining us. You were mentioning or raising the challenges that the province has been facing, and I see in the insert they raised the issue around 8,000 pit toilets that the province still has.
Which we have to eradicate. And we are in the process of doing exactly that. We've got a
Why
plan,
has it been so difficult, though? From the 8%, the 10% that you mentioned earlier on to being to 53%, why can't we get to 100%?
Oh, it's not as easy as that. If I had a magic wand to do that, I would definitely do exactly that. But the problem is that you've got challenging, competing needs and competing demands in the province. When you have, we are a rural province. You are not the kind of province that you would have available resources at your disposal all the time. You've got to struggle and scrape for resources, for you to get.
So is the problem the allocation that the province is receiving? Is the province not receiving enough money?
Absolutely. You can't have, in fact, the whole country doesn't have enough money to deal with the kind of problems that the rural provinces are having in this country.
So then...
that is why we are doing these things in a staggered fashion.
So then it means that even though the ANC, as it says in its discussion document, has declared education its apex priority, dating back to 1995, and still you face these issues, clearly it means that it hasn't been an apex priority, at least by those who are implementing ANC policies.
But what was your baseline in 1995? I think you must check that. What was your baseline in 95? In 1995, you didn't have the number of schools that you are having. In 1995, you didn't have the kind of services that we are providing to our schools. We used to, those of us who went to school prior to that, we were not getting free stationery, we were not getting free textbooks, we were not even having electricity in our schools. But today, you've got that in our schools. Because the ANC government had made education its priority, and education is apex project.
But then
hence 85%, about 85% of your budget goes to both education and health.
Shouldn't, and now specifically focusing on Limpopo, shouldn't the provincial government take responsibility and take accountability? For instance, the issues that were raised by Section 27, whether it is the issues of the textbooks, the money was there, but the textbooks were not in the classes. The INSET now says that about 6 pupils use one textbook. That can't be an issue of money not being available because the textbooks are already there, but the textbooks are not in the classes.
I think you would agree with me that the issue of textbooks and stationery is a matter of the past. And I must accept that coming to that, it was basically operational inefficiencies of our people who were in charge of the province then. Hence, the ANC government decided to intervene because there were those operational inefficiencies. But currently, if you ask me, almost, in fact, 100% stationery have already been dispensed to schools for next year, 2018. And we are almost at about 85% when it comes to textbooks. In fact, they are already in our warehouses. By the end of this month, everybody will be having his textbook. But come January, we won't have the kind of problems that we are having, we had in the previous years.
The ANC Youth League, as you've seen in that insert as well, is saying that Stan Mathabatha is to blame for the issues that this province is facing, and he must go.
I was not there in 2012, 2011, 2012.
But the problems persist. They even persist during your tenure as well as Premier and Chairperson.
No. I took over in 2014 and I was under administration. I did not have executive powers. 2015, when I had executive powers, I resolved the problem. Currently, I'm telling you that 2016, 2017, you don't have that kind of problems today of school stationery, of textbooks. 2017, 2018, we shall have eliminated almost everything when it comes to the kind of problems of that. The department itself has been under a disclaimer for many, many years. Currently, even the Auditor General is saying that has actually declared that the Department of Education in Limpopo has improved, unprecedented. It has improved. It went out of the disclaimer, is now in a qualified zone. And we're expecting it to be unqualified next year because we've got a plan to do so.
Two quick questions that I need you to push in. One question is the recent cabinet reshuffle. Would you say that the recent cabinet reshuffle has nothing to do with those who support Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, and it had to do more with policy? Policy implementation. Your recent cabinet reshuffle.
Or executive council.
Yeah.
Remember, in the province, you don't have a cabinet.
Yes.
The reconfiguration or reshuffle, as you may want to put it, of EXCO in our province was not based on that at all. Perhaps to give you a glimpse of what was happening, we assessed the entire provincial government. We realized that the Department of Agriculture has regressed when it comes to the issue of the audit results. And we have said from day one that we are going to concentrate on this issue of audit outcomes. The Department of Coxter has been doing that for quite some time now, and they've been taking back money to the national fiscus. And we said perhaps we must bring changes there.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with politics.
Unfortunately, Premier Stan Mathabatha and the chairperson of the ANC, unfortunately, we have to leave that discussion here. We've come out of time. Thank you so much for watching this special edition of Special Assignment. We continue again next week at 9 o'clock on SABC 3, as well as SABC News Channel 404. Goodbye.